welcome to the Data Friday. My name is Marc Winkelmann, and I'm consultant at Scalefree, and happy today to do the Data Friday. So we achieved the question related to the topic of granularities, and the question was: could you explain the difference between a multi-active satellite and a satellite with a dependent child key? So first of all, the topic here is definitely the grain, right? So we need to handle different grains of data and how to store that in the data warehouse, especially with the data vault entities. So first of all, we're talking about two different things here, how we handle the grains. And this is also what I will talk about in the next few minutes. The multi-active satellite is really related to a single business object, right? So we have multiple data sets at the same time which are active. So we will see it with a few examples soon, where the dependent child key is usually used to handle also a finer grain of data, but usually in relationships. So that means, I don't know why this happens here. Let's see. So that means let's have a look here on what multi-active first means. The first example here is a standard satellite. So just to see how, again, how a standard satellite looks like, right? Here, my example, again, very simple, the customer, right? We have a customer business key here with the C123. We get the data from the customer table from a source system. We have a load date timestamp when we extracted the data, and we have some descriptive attributes. In this case, I took the name. So, and here we have one row active at one point in time. So as soon as I change my name in the future, we will have a different load date timestamp. This data here, we can also see it on the primary key definition of the source system, or in our staging area. We have, or even in the source system, we would find the primary key definition only on one column, and this is usually the business key for a customer, or maybe a technical identifier, but it's just one column usually, right? So that means we have here the grain is defined already in the source system. You can have only one row or one record per customer at one point in time. So this is going through standard satellite, and that's the easy way. So, but then there may be more tables for the same, describing the same business object, but in a different grain, right? So you can have, for example, multiple rows for the same business object having active at the same point in time. For example, here we have maybe an additional table in the source system called customer address. So this customer address here, customers can have, for example, or we store two different addresses, right? And in best case, you have this in two different columns, also in just one row, right? But some source systems are different, and it also depends a little bit how the data is delivered. If you get it in file formats, maybe in XML data and so on, where the address is in an array, and when you flatten it, you get two rows then instead of two columns. But in such cases, when you can have get multiple records for the same business object at the same time, so then we're talking about multi-active. And in this case, we need an additional primary key to store the data. It's then no longer just the business key and the load date timestamp. It's also an additional column. In best case, the source system delivers us this. In here in my example, I used that with the address type, for example, right? And there may be two different types of addresses. One is home, one is work, and then we can find two different values here. And these two different values, Hanover and Cologne, are active for the same customer here, C123, at the same time, right? But with two different data. So this is how we handle multi-active data in a multi-active satellite. So we have multiple attributes or multiple rows active at the same time for the same customer. And this also needs to be handled in a different satellite. You cannot, if we would mix that up, I would do it anyway, right? So mix or pre-join something into one table to load it into one satellite. because then we would have the name redundant, right? So then we would have 2 times here Marc Winkelmann. So therefore, again here, just one source table, one target table, and data vault. Okay, so this is how we basically handle multi-active satellites. I think we already talked about in another session how to load these multi-active satellites. There are multiple ways to do that. Also really depends on how the data is arrived. In this case, we had an address type, so we just take the address type in addition to the customer business key into account to do the delta check, right? So then we check, hey, did the address, so what we see on the right column, the descriptive attributes, did the descriptive attributes change for customer and address type, right? In some cases, we maybe don't have the, let's say an additional primary key column. Maybe we just get an array with, let's say, 2 different addresses, but we don't know, is Hanover the home address or is Cologne the home address? We just got, let's say, without any further context, just 2 addresses which are active at the same time. So when we flatten it and try to bring it into a relational database, we have 2 rows. And then what we do usually is create a sequence number, just creating a sequence number with 1, 2, right? And use this numbers, for example, as the primary key, because we need we need something, right? So we need something to store the data here. It's how we handle multi-active data. And the other thing is a dependent child key. And here we're usually talking about we need to handle also here. It's the same topic, right? So we need to handle a finer grain of data which doesn't fit to the parents, which doesn't fit to the related hubs, right? But here we're talking about the relationship between multiple parents or between multiple business objects. In this example, I choose the order line item. So that means we have an order, and in an order, I have the information about the customer who did the order. I have the information about the product and about the order itself, right? So which order? Usually we have in such scenarios, on such business processes, we have 2 different tables anyway from the source system. One is defining the order on the header level, where we have the summary of the revenue or the money from the whole order. We have the customer as well, because one customer is doing the whole order, right? But what we usually find then on the finer grain on the line item level is then the product, right? So because we have in each position on the order, we maybe have different products, or what I would like to show you here is that we also can have the same product in 2 different line items. Maybe we got the discount on the second line item here. Maybe the first one, the first line item we can see here, it's the order 0123. For the customer 123 and the product 123. So it can be that in the second row we got the discount like buy 2 and get the third one for free, or for by 50%, for example. That means I didn't add here more context or more descriptive data, but if we would find like columns like quantity and price per unit and so on, we could find different data here, right? And also the source system delivers us the data like this. So that means if we just refer to the business objects, and this is here, the order, the customer, and the product, it's not unique, right? So we have the same order for the same customer and including the same product on the line item level. So we need something in addition to uniquely identify the row. So, and this is usually handled by, in such scenarios, by a line item number, for example. Or when you think on cassettes, right? So the old cassettes with the music on it. You have the A and the B side. So what if you have the same song on the same cassette on the A side and on the B side, right? So you have to provide this fine information, this very detailed information, which has no characteristics of a business object, but we need this information to make something unique, right? And in the context of a link here, where we talk about multiple business objects, then we use this as an additional column here, which is used to uniquely identify a row. And you can also see it here in the link hash key. right? So the link hash key is the primary key, the single column primary key in the link. And here we're not just hashing the hub relationships with the order number 0123 and the customer 123 and the product 123. We also take this one into account here, the line item number 1. And here in the second row, the line item number 2 into account, that we have two different keys, because it can be that the line item number 1 gets removed, or the line item number 2 gets removed or gets changed, the product changes, whatever, right? So that we also can do the delta check on this grain of data. So and this is where we use the line item number. So basically, we have the way how we handle this is very similar, right? But the two terms here, multi-active satellite and dependent child key, are used in two different scenarios or in two different contexts. The multi-active part is used for only related to only to one business object usually, and applied in satellites, right? And the dependent child key is related to multiple business objects and applied in links. And that's the difference between multi-active satellite and dependent child key. Sounds the same, but different names used in different contexts. It's very similar to this the ghost record and the zero key concept, right? So the zero key concept and the ghost record also very, very similar, and they want to achieve the same results, better performance. But the ghost record is used in the context between point-in-time tables and satellites, where the zero key concept is used between the links and the hubs, right? But the way how we implement this and the reason why we do this is the same. So, and this is also the same here. So there's a question, dependent child key can also be used in satellite. Usually we don't call it then dependent child key. I mean, when I go back to the MultiActive Satellite example, this address type, this is what we usually call the MultiActive Attribute, right? So this is an additional primary key. We usually don't call it the dependent child key here, just from naming perspective here, right? We call it the MultiActive Attribute here. But yeah, reason is the same. We want to handle finer grains related to a parent table, to a hub, and this is what we need to do. We need to define additional columns, or usually in best cases just one additional column, which is going to be used to be the additional key part. All right, yeah, that's it from my side. I don't see any further questions here in the chat. So yeah, if you have, there are some more questions in the backlog. I saw them, but this one was, I think, the oldest one here. So next time maybe Mike will do it again, and we just pick any questions from the backlog. So yeah, please continue with that. So provide us more questions. We should answer here, and visit sfr.ee/dvfriday to submit a new question. And of course, a bit advertising here. You can also ask those questions. I mean, this year we do every week on Friday, 11 o'clock. But if you have questions related to data vault, or to any question related to technologies regarding general data warehousing stuff or business intelligence topics, visit or join us here on the Data Innovators Exchange, DIE. And so here we are also very active in answering questions from everyone who asks questions. And also I ask a lot of questions as well, how you handle this and that, right? So it's very nice, very cool community. Worth it to join. And the last one here, in 1.5 weeks already, we have the Data Dreamland taking place in Hanover again. So if you don't have a ticket, you can still get one here. Scan the QR code or go to Scalefree with a dot between or before the two E's /DDL 2024, and get your ticket. So I will be there. I will also hold a presentation with our CEO Christoph about data mesh, and hope to see you there. Okay, thank you. Have a nice weekend. Bye bye.